which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, in earth as it is in heaven. And give us this day our daily bread, Father, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from the evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever and ever. Amen. Well, family, I have a disclaimer to make. I have to tell you, I'm not a theologian, I'm not a historian necessarily. I study it intensely, and I'm not a theologian or historian or a scientist, but what I put out, I do extensive and obscene research on. I can't be right every time by no stretch of the imagination. And I just ask for the wisdom come from the Father, and I ask also that anything anybody hears from me, that you research it, that you go on your own. You don't take my word for it. I'm human. And you do your own research. That's a must. Because even Jesus Christ was not a respecter of man. I depend wholly, solely on the Holy Spirit to guide me. I guess I almost feel like I'm still in prayer. Almost forgot I was talking to the audience there for a second. Whoa. Anyway. So, excuse me. In Romans 1:18, for the wrath of God is revealed from heaven against all ungodliness and unrighteousness of men, who hold the truth in unrighteousness. Because that which may be known of God and manifest in them, for God has showed it unto them. For the invisible things of him from the creation of the world are clearly seen, being understood by the things that are made, even his eternal power and Godhead, so that they are without excuse. So we see his creation without it being so manifested in the present, in the physical. That's important. Oh, I had a little bit of a heart attack there. I thought I had didn't unmute. I got a big sign in front of me in black, bold letters saying unmute. I'm so self-conscious of that. When I first started off in February, it was so hard to remember to unmute. You'd get cranked up and you'd go. And so I just said, okay. I just wrote in big black letters so I can't miss it. Says unmute. And even then, when I first started, that still didn't solve the problem. So I come up with another system. So I got a double tier system. This is so funny. Anyway, that gave me a little heart attack there for a second. Family, I'm going to bring to you today a little bit of everything. I'm going to call it mulligan stew. But mulligan stew, what do you do when you finally finish the ingredients and you get it out of the stove or whatever? What do? You eat the whole thing. Yeah, you see, it's mulligan stew made up of all kinds of things, but you eat it and it goes into one body. Well, that's kind of what it is today. I'm going to cover just a myriad of subjects. The octopus with 8 arms, but 1 head. 8 arms are doing different things, but to feed that 1 head is what it's all about. That is the hardest thing to get across to people. Hardest thing in the world to get across. Sideways or up and down. That this is one conspiracy. One. Just one. A conspiracy against God and against his creation. Everything else, all the headlines, all the points of history, all the principles of economics, all of that has been infiltrated by the supernatural, Lucifer and Satan and his fallen angels. Now that's hard to refute. I don't care if you're from Harvard, if you're from Princeton, and you're a PhD times 10. If you don't understand the supernatural, I can guarantee you, I can guarantee you will never understand the headlines of today. And you're teaching wrong in the colleges. I always wanted to be a teacher. It was 2 things I wanted to be. because that was in high school. And I wanted to be an ocean archaeologist. Oh, yeah. And I thought, God, it'd be nice to be a teacher. You know how we are. Well, when I got out of college, actually before, and I joined the Marines because I knew my number was coming up. It was 48. It was during the draft. I'm going to join anyway to go kill communists for Christ. That was my point of thinking at the time. I even set up a .22 rifle. Boy, did I get in trouble for this a lot, but I still did it anyway when I could. A .22 rifle range in my basement. I set up where I shoot off pencil racers at 60 feet. I said, I'm going to kill me some communists. I'm going to bring back a piece with me and put it in a jar in formaldehyde to remember what I did for Jesus. I was there. I was there. Trust me on that. I didn't hunt. I didn't believe in killing animals. I had a special affection for animals of all kinds. Even insects, go figure. But I doggone sure didn't for man. Not at all. I wanted to kill so bad I could taste it. Of course, I didn't know what I was getting myself into. I went to Vietnam as a 17, 18-year-old. But when I was in college, and my number was up, 48, well, there we go. So I said, well, I might as well jump in this PLC program, officer's training program. If I'm going into a service, I might as well go as an officer. And I said, which is the worst one? Oh, the Marines. They're the first ones in. We'll clean it up and get out. Okay. So I joined and fell in love. And I was hooked. My second year of college. This was my first year of college. First or second year, I forgot. But anyway, excuse me. So, at that point, I was sharpening up my knives. And when my first PLC program, boot camp, I was at home. Oh, I got beat. I did. This was in 1972. I was rebellious. Even then, I was rebellious to the end. But, no, I got beat. I got whooped. Let me tell you. But I am, as people that know me will tell you, I'm extremely mule-headed. Big time. I'm rebellious. And I joined the Marines, and here we go. And then before I know it, I'm on Liberty Broadcasting Network. That water, in that degree of negative energy per se, had reacted and had, in fact, poisoned that committee members. It became tainted water. The investigation is much more detailed than what I'm giving you. But that's the summation of it. Water has memory. Now that really brings on a whole new meaning to the word water of life, does it not? You see, we are spiritual. This is a spiritual universe, a spiritual heaven. Everything's in spiritual form. Think of it like this. When God created the angels, they were created in spiritual form. However, when those rebelled in heaven, when Lucifer, who was an archangel, in that age, in that first age, we are the second age. In that first age, Lucifer rebelled and caused a third of the angels to rebel with him because he thought he could be better. Pride, envy, jealous, all that. Ooh, sound familiar? And he was no longer humble, even though he was the most powerful one, which certainly goes hand in hand. He's fooling with the wrong people, the wrong God, because only one. And this one God kicked his hiney butt on out of heaven and sent him to a physical universe with physical, created bodies of a different DNA that's based on copper. Uh-oh, we're getting specific here, are we not? They're able to live on other planets. They're able to be in the physical universe. Now, the angels did have a war. They're different species, different levels of angelic beings, have different forms. They all don't run around with little wings and blonde hair and blue-eyed and Caucasian of all sorts of kinds, depending on the level of which they are given the power, given the supernatural power. The lower are different forms of angels, sizes, shapes. But when they're kicked out of heaven from the spiritual realm, they're giving a physical body, which is a demotion to PFC private.
In every way they can.
Yeah, global warming. They didn't have to worry about global warming then. I'll be back with this little scenario when we come back off the station break. You know, another form of Trump, except this one trumps. Let me tell you what, you're fired. He just changes their frequency. Without them, they can't do anything about it. Demoted them. And the angel Michael and angel Gabriel, if you to be less spiritual about it, was allowed to keep their frequencies because they were obedient to God. How's that sound? Bet you never heard that before. So Michael and Gabriel and the other angels were allowed to keep their frequencies. But Lucifer, his was changed into another being, another creation called Satan. And now you know the rest of the story. However, he is in the supernatural realm. He is allowed to go to and fro, so he can change up to a certain level his frequency in order to do that. And the only way he can do that, to come into this realm, is for us as humans to dedicate our lives to Lucifer, do the Kabbalah, do all their chanting and pounding and drum beating that they do, this rhythmic beating, the trumpets that way they do it, and so forth, changes the frequency and makes a portal allowing the supernatural to come into the natural. Or if we allow it to happen by doing seances, ritual, sacrifice, and no, whatever the heck they do, I don't really care, don't want to know, I will study it only so far, that you can be indwelled by a demon that takes over your physical body. Think of it as a demon trying to put on a scuba suit in this environment to be able to interact. He just kind of says, hey, scoot over, I'm in charge now. When you get hypnotized, you're in an altered state of consciousness, you now have the way of a demon to get inside you. There's the 3 students that died, that was reported died with hypnosis as their background. Do you notice also, you'll find reports that those that actually see UFOs or abductees have in some way dwelled with the occult. It opens up that portal, opens up that ability, that way that those demons can work with us, with those that do that. Now, that being said, is there any question as to how the Antichrist will enter that Satan, Lucifer, will enter the body of the Antichrist when he is shot, when he is dead, when he's shot in the head as a human clone, if you will, or whatever it may happen, that Satan can then indwell inside that Antichrist and become king of the earth for that short period of time. He'll be allowed to be king of the earth. This opens up a whole realm of possibilities, as God revealed to me in my heart one day, of how this worked. But you say there's good angels. Yes, there is. Because God allows them, he changes their frequency to become physical-bodied angels. Because those angels in Lot came into his house and they ate. Now you see, those fallen angels, watchers as they became, to be servants of man, were coaxed and cajoled into being gods of Genesis 6:4 with a little g. The sons of God took the daughters of man and created Nephilim, which were hybrids between the creation of the angels and the daughters of man in the DNA of man, Adam and Eve, That was, their frequencies were changed when they disobeyed God. Now you see how that works. Because the trees were real. They had, I don't know whether it's pomegranate, apple, fig, grape, I don't know, don't care. It was a tree of some sort there that God said, don't eat of this tree. It's a tree of knowledge of good and evil.